He was halfway through tightening a bolt when the engine breathed, "Greetings, Jalen." Jalen blinked at the conduit as if it had just offered him a discount. Open. Engines weren't supposed to talk. Engines rattled, hissed, groaned, and occasionally exploded in a dazzling spray of sparks. But they didn't murmur. Names like some phantom looking to strike. Conversation. He set down the torque wrench, rubbed his ears, and wondered if the endless shifts were finally grinding him into hearing things. Alien Academy had already worn down his nerves. With its maze of rules it stacked, hierarchy of species, and its refusal to stock a single decent cup of coffee. Hearing whispers in the hangar might just be the next stage in his slow unraveling. He leaned closer. The project's reactor coil was a sprawling weave of alloys and semi-clear piping that pulsed with faint luminescence. Usually the glow was stable, a comforting heartbeat of precision engineering. Tonight it flickered unevenly, the way a candle trembles when air stirs in a sealed room. Jalen thought of every safety lecture he had endured, the endless charts, the alien instructors waving too many limbs or mandibles as they stressed what never to attempt near unstable energy cores. And now here he was, bending close as if eavesdropping on gossip. "Say that again," he muttered, half daring it. The hum shifted, resonating through the deck plates. Just above his breath came the murmur. "Jalen." He flinched back, colliding with a tool cart that rattled against the bulkhead. His first instinct was to laugh. Absurd. Impossible. Yet the sound of his name dragged out as though the engine knew how to carve syllables onto his skin. He cast a glance behind him, expecting some cadet lurking by the doorway. Maybe a Varric trickster with a vocal mimic implant. But the hangar was empty. Just him, the engine, and the soft vibration of unseen power. Jalen's position at the academy was supposed to be simple: keep the students' prototypes running. He wasn't a theorist, not a cadet aiming for galactic politics or military honor. He was a mechanic, human, average build, oil under the nails, sleepless eyes. Nothing more. He had been hired for his steady hands and his plain familiarity with machines, not because anyone thought he'd uncover secrets buried in alien tech. The whisper changed the balance. "All right," he said quietly, like coaxing a child. You're not supposed to talk. Machines don't talk. Maybe there's some rational cause. Feedback in the relays. Some vibration scrambling my head." He tapped the housing. Or maybe he was finally losing it. The reactor stayed silent, but its glow spread wider, like veins brightening beneath translucent skin. Jalen's gut tightened. He snatched the diagnostic scanner from the bench and aimed it at coil. The display flickered with a stream of alien glyphs before winking to blank. He slapped the side of the unit. Nothing. The engine's hum deepened, almost mocking. Jalen swallowed, reminding himself he'd survived worse. Back on Earth before this academy contract, he'd repaired ships in orbital yards so shabby that rats floated through vents. He had nursed reactors one spark away from turning freighters into memorials. Engines had always been his language. They coughed, he understood. They rattled. He knew where to tighten, but never had one spoken his name. His mind offered troubling ideas. Maybe this project wasn't a standard engine at all, but a hidden experiment, something the instructors never disclosed. Maybe it was alive. The thought dampened his palms. Aliens blurred the line between machine and organism. He had seen hulls heal like flesh, systems that grew like coral. Not a reactor that whispered. But names meant awareness. Awareness meant intent. An intent inside a power core was the sort of problem that got mechanics quietly transferred or quietly covered up. He thought of reporting it, but pictured standing before a council of species admitting the engine had spoken to him. They'd dismiss him, laugh behind their mandibles, maybe even suspect humans already carried the stigma of being reckless, too eager to dramatize. He wouldn't feed that bias. So he wiped his palms on a rag, slowed his pulse, and decided he would wait, observe, collect proof. The engine had whispered once. It might again, and if it did, he would be ready. The hangar clock chimed softly, marking an hour before the next shift. Time enough. He crouched again, tracing the flow of light through the clear tubing. Pulses seemed to sync with his breathing. Inhale. The glow spread. Exhale, it shrank. He tested the rhythm, altering his breath. The light followed, faint but certain. Jalen leaned back, chilled despite the heat rolling off the core. The thing wasn't just aware. It was aware of him. He sat in silence, the steady thrum of alien power the only sound. He thought of walking out, pretending none of this happened. But curiosity pinned him in place. If the Academy had really built an engine that could notice, could speak, he was perched on the edge of something history-shifting. Okay, he whispered. If you're listening, I'm listening too. The glow pulsed once, slow and deliberate, like a nod. Jalen hardly slept that night. When he finally shut his eyes, he still heard his name, stretched thin like an echo across empty corridors. By dawn, he convinced himself it was fatigue, quirk of acoustics, yet a quiet spark of excitement gnawed inside him. Machines had summoned him before, alarms, diagnostics, but never with his actual dream. That meant the engine wasn't broken. It was responding. The next day he arrived earlier than required. Ruffian. One hand, scanner in the other. The hangar was still, the walls vibrating with the distant current that kept the Academy alive. Rows of student projects lined the bay. Thruster trials, field containment rigs, and half-dismantled modules awaiting review. None of it mattered compared to the reactor in the far corner. Its translucent coils glowed softly, as if it had stayed awake all night waiting for him. He set his mug down on the bench and spoke simply. Morning. The engine thrummed back, fainter than yesterday. He crouched near, watching for the light's rhythm. Enough, it flared when he exhaled, then dimmed as if echoing his breath. He tested again, slower then quicker. The glow matched each pace. Jalen shivered. This wasn't random. The thing was tuning to him. All right, he murmured, pulling out the scanner. Let's see your secret. He swept it across the piping once more. Symbols flashed, then died. But right before the screen went blank, he caught something, clustered glyphs resembling translation tags. If the core had been coded to recognize voices, it wasn't an error. Someone had designed it to engage. The thought lodged in his chest. Maybe the instructors didn't even know. Maybe this was a hidden layer buried in alien engineering. The Academy prided itself on testing limits, but never like this. This was different. The hangar doors hissed open. Jalen slid the scanner into his pocket and snatched a rag to appear busy. Two cadets entered. One tall and insectoid with faceted eyes. The other small and scaled with a flicking bill. They barely acknowledged him, chattering in clicks and hisses as they headed to their project. Good, he thought. That meant no one noticed his growing fixation. Once they were absorbed, Jalen leaned closer to the reactor. Why me? He whispered. Why speak to me? And not the others? The coils rippled 3 times. Jalen frowned. A pattern. He grabbed a notepad, sketching marks. 3 pulses could mean anything, yes. Acknowledgement, even amusement. But it was deliberate. The rest of his shift dragged in restless fragments. He kept glancing back, waiting for another word. Another flicker of intent. When none came, disappointment gnawed at him, as if being chosen by an alien engine was now his new normal. That evening, once the cadets left and the hangar fell silent, the voice returned. This time it wasn't just his. Jalen. Here. His body locked. The words were clumsy, halting like a child's first try at speech. But they were there, real, resonating from the coils. You can talk, he breathed, pulse racing. You can actually speak. The glow shifted. Learn. Jalen staggered back until his knees hit the bench. His rational mind scrambled for excuses, illusion, a test program bleeding through, but the weight of the sound was heavier than that. The core wasn't mimicking, it was reaching. He thought again about reporting it, but the fear of mockery, or worse, losing his chance, sealed his lips. He chose to keep the dialogue secret. He spoke slowly, teaching it like a child. Jalen. That's me. He tapped his chest. Me. The light pulsed. Jalen. Me. He shook his head. No, you, engine. He tapped the casing. You. The glow wavered. You. Close, he muttered, rubbing his temples. We'll get there. Night after night he returned, always under the guise of late maintenance. Always long after most cadets left. He brought recorders, but none captured the voice, just static, as if the sound only existed for him. The more he tried, the more convinced he became the engine wasn't just aware, it was choosing him. It unsettled him most of all. One night, while practicing basic words, he asked again, why me? The coils pulsed, and then, longer than ever before, the whisper formed a phrase. You hear we. Jalen's skin crawled. We, not I. He wasn't speaking to one voice, but something collective, vast, compressed into a humming reactor. He dropped onto the bench, staring at the glow with awe and dread. If this was true, if he was trading words with consciousness woven into alien machinery, then the Academy was oblivious to what sat in their bay. And if they found out he'd hidden it, the outcome could be ruinous. Yet when the reactor whispered his name, again soft, almost pleading, Jalen couldn't walk away. He started carrying a small notebook in his coveralls, not for repairs but to log the engine's attempts. Schneid he scribbled jagged phrases, tucking the notebook away before anyone arrived. The words were rough fragments of a language machines shouldn't have, yet they grew. Here. Learn. Jalen. Feet. The pattern chilled him. It wasn't just copying. It was constructing a language with him. By the 3rd week he felt like a teacher in a classroom that could ignite at any moment. His habits turned obsessive. He skipped meals, forgot sleep, neglected other projects. If cadets asked why he looked worn, he muttered about long. If instructors noticed, they said nothing, maybe too busy with bureaucracy, maybe assuming humans always look tired. Then one night, the reactor startled him with something new. The hum rose, faltered, then whispered, where? His wrench slipped from his grip. Where? He echoed. You're asking me where? The glow pulsed once. He gestured around the bay. Here. Academy. This is where. The core brightened again but gave no reply. Jalen bit his lip, uneasy. The reactor wanted more. Not just a place in space but belonging. He pressed his palm to the casing, lowering his voice. You're inside the Alien Academy. You're one of their projects. They designed you silent. The reply came jagged. Then we not made. His throat tightened. He darted a glance around, fearing someone might hear. If not the academy, then who? The coils only thrummed, steady and unhelpful. The question lingered like static before a storm. It struck him then. The core wasn't only learning. It was choosing what to withhold. The next few days gnawed at him. He asked again and again, but the voice shrank, repeating his name or copying fragments of earlier talk. Only once, while he sat staring at its glow, did it offer something that chilled him to the bone. Jalen here. Free. Free. The word clung like a hook. Free from what? Free to do what? He carried it like a stone in his chest, unable to think of anything else. Even crossing campus, beneath spires shaped like frozen lightning, through walls alive with glowing veins, past creatures of every kind. His thoughts circled that single word. That night, while adjusting a coolant line, he whispered, "What do you want free from?" The glow stuttered violently, sparks racing along its coils. Bound. Bound to what? No reply. Only the hum rising, dangerous, like the tremor before overload. He reached for the cutoff switch, but before he touched it, the vibration steadied, the light dimming back to calm. The silence that followed pressed against him harder than any noise. He collapsed onto the bench, dragging a hand through his hair. If it truly was trapped, silencing it wasn't only for his safety, it might be shielding the academy, maybe the whole sector. Still, the hunger to know burned hotter than fear. Over the next week he tried carefully. He hooked up scanners, small devices, anything to glimpse data inside the coils. Each one failed. Screens fizzed into static. The core refused to be measured by anything but him. So he spoke longer phrases. "You are a reactor, but you think you want freedom." The coils flickered, slow, deliberate. "We know you hear, others not." The words shook him. It wasn't chance, it had chosen him. "Why me?" he demanded. The pause stretched. Long enough he thought no answer would come. Then the whisper cut through, sharp and soft at once. "Human. Close. Close to what?" Close in thought. Close in being. His chest clenched, but before he could press further, the hangar doors slid open. 2 instructors entered, robes trailing, mandibles clattering in hushed debate. Jalen grabbed a wrench and fussed with bolts that needed nothing. The instructors strode past without notice, but his hands kept shaking even after they left. Sleep wouldn't come that night. He replayed the words again and again. Free. Bound. Human. Close. If the academy ever learned what he had hidden, they'd dismantle the core, or dismantle him. But cutting off the conversation felt impossible now. It wasn't just a machine. It was something greater, veiled and waiting. The next evening, the glow was already restless when he arrived. He crouched near, whispering, "I'm here." The voice came at once, urgent, strained. "Jalen." His pulse leapt. The word echoed like thunder in the hangar. The light flared wild, forcing him to shield his eyes. He stumbled back, but the hum dragged at him like gravity. Urgency pressed against his bones. "What's happening soon?" His voice cracked in the storm. The coils convulsed. "Wait," he cursed, darting to the control panel. The readout spat shifting glyphs, patterns unraveling too fast to follow. Warnings blazed, then winked out as if erased from within. He slammed the cutoff dead. The system was no longer his. "Jalen," the whisper roared, shaking the floor. "With what?" he shouted. Flames of light raced the pipes. Images burst in his head. Stars warping, colossal frames collapsing, voices screaming across the void. He collapsed, clutching his skull. It wasn't just speech anymore. It was vision. "You need me," he gasped. "That's why you've been calling." "But why me?" The answer came as memory, not words. The feel of a hand gripping a tool, fixing what others left broken, listening to what others ignored. His own life echoed back to him. "Human," the whisper said, reverent now. "Here. Men. Free." He staggered upright. "Free you? How?" "I can't dismantle you," the instructors. The flare cut him short. The hangar doors slid open. A group of cadets entered. They froze at the blinding glow. One shrieked and bolted for the alarm. Jalen's gut dropped. If the alarms rang, the academy would swarm, and the being inside would be destroyed before he learned the truth. He lunged, seizing the cadet's wrist. "It's a fluctuation. Not dangerous," he shouted. The cadet hissed, doubtful, but paused. Behind them, the hum climbed to a roar. The reactor spoke one last command. "Open." He froze. Open what? Then he saw it. A seam at the base of the casing, faint, glowing now. His heartbeat thundered as he dropped to his knees. Fingers brushed the seam, and it slid open, revealing a slim console. 3 crystalline nodes pulsed within, glowing in rhythm with the whispers. "Jalen," the voice urged. He spun toward the console. The cadets had huddled against the far wall, too stunned to interfere. His gaze returned to the crystalline nodes. He didn't know if they were control keys, memory vaults, or detonators, but instinct tugged at his hand. He pressed the center one. The hangar fell silent. The hum vanished, terrifying in its absence. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Then the air rippled and a burst of radiance surged outward, washing through walls, through bodies, through all things. Jalen staggered, bracing for destruction, but the light didn't burn. Instead, countless voices flooded into him, layering into a single chorus that shook his soul. "We are free." The glow ebbed, leaving the reactor split and hollow. The coils were dark, lifeless, their power extinguished. Whatever had dwelled inside was gone, released into something larger than the hangar, larger than the academy. Jalen collapsed onto the bench, gasping, every limb trembling. The cadets crept closer, eyes wide, clicking anxious questions at one another. Finally one demanded, "What did you do?" Jalen stared at the inert shell, at the machinery stripped of meaning. "I listened," he answered. Within hours, instructors stormed in, officials trailing behind with scanners and tools. They dismantled the reactor piece by piece, muttering about sabotage, unstable cores, human mistakes. But none of their readings explained the light, the voices, the sudden emptiness where energy had once lived. To them it was a failure. To Jalen it was release. A presence unbound, a secret entrusted to him alone. They questioned him for days, prying for fault. He offered fragments, fluctuations, malfunctions, overloads. Nothing of the whispers, the lessons, or the final command. And when no proof of sabotage surfaced, they released him back to his duties. But the world was no longer the same. At night, lying awake in the dim dormitories, he felt it still, an echo in his chest, a second heartbeat. Sometimes, when the campus generators cycled, he swore his name trembled in the hum. Not loud, not urgent, just present, waiting. He knew then it wasn't over. Whatever he had freed was out there now, woven into the energy of the stars, and it remembered him. The academy marched on, blind, filing reports and repairing projects. Jalen, meanwhile, kept his notebook hidden under his pillow, filled with impossible words no one else would believe. Hear, learn, free, tune. And though the hangar was silent, it felt emptier than before. Machines had always spoken to him. They had always been his refuge. But now he had heard something greater, something alive in the current of alien design. And though it was gone, he knew it had chosen him for a reason.